Kingpvz, welcome back to yet another tutorial. Now last time it was JavaScript. Let's say, yeah, it's an important thing to know if you want to make websites. But what if you don't want to make websites? Maybe you want to make games or simple programs that can ease in your life, and that's exactly what we're gonna learn today. We are gonna learn Python. And before you ask, no, this video is not scripted. So if it's all over the place, that's just how it is. To begin, in order to even run Python in your machine, go to python.org/downloads. It will be obviously in the description, and you download Python 3.13.3 or whatever the latest version is. But you will need that. Go through the installation, install everything. The more you have, the more you get. Create a new file, a text document. Let's call it my first program, and change the txt to py. We changed it to a Python. You can see the beautiful twin Pythons. Now, just as last time, I was telling you that you will need to see file extension. And in case you didn't watch that video, here is a quick tutorial of how to make it. So you go to File, you change folder instructions or whatever, go to View, and here you have hide extensions for known file types. You turn that off. So you have to change the extensions from txt to py. And then, once you have it, right click it, and you have edit with idle. In case you have Windows 11, you first need to go to show extra options, and then you will see this menu. So how Python works. It's important to understand how Python works before you can do anything. It's important to learn the syntax. And in this one, it looks like this. The function, then you open parentheses, add the parameters, and then you close it. We should also discuss very important things, a piece of code that lets us store information. That's the easy part of Python. In Python, many things that other languages require special types for or special keywords for, Python doesn't require anything. So you simply type the crazy name of your variable, and you can just put an equal sign, and you can already assign it a value. This is our name. Just as in JavaScript, in order to have a string, which is a piece of text, that is literal text, so not a comment. If I would just type Stanley without the quotes like this, it would be interpreted as a code, and we would get a syntax error because Python doesn't know what Stanley is. Python knows what name is because we've defined it right here using this equal sign. That equal sign defines our name as Stanley, and you need these quotes because it's a text. Now, if we go print, which is an extremely important function because it lets you print things to the console. If you don't know what a console is, don't worry, we'll get to that. Now, as I said, that's the function name. Then you add a parentheses, and inside of them, you add whatever you want to print. In our case, is the name. This is a very simple program. We declare a variable and we print the variable. Now, how do we actually do that? How do we run the program? With JavaScript, I was doing it on a website. We simply had to push the website to GitHub or just launch it on our local environment. Here, we are not pushing it anywhere, alright? This is just on our PC. It's just a file. Just if you create a presentation, it's just on your computer, nothing else. And how do you turn on presentations in PowerPoint? With F5. So exactly that's what we're gonna do. Obviously, we'll have this problem. This is a really annoying thing when it comes to idle. So every time you click F5 and you have done any change, you first need to save it. So we will save it, and boom, this is the console. As you can see, Stanley is printed. By the way, in this console, once you have these 3 red arrows, you can put in your own comment. So we can add another print name. Boom, it works because we have already defined the name right here. So this is our console. Using print, we can print things to the console. We can display them on screen. However, this console can do many things. Maybe when you are giving this program to someone, maybe this program is supposed to do something very specific, maybe it's supposed to be an app. You don't want the name of everyone to be Stanley. Obviously, it doesn't make much sense. So let's delete this and add another function called input, inside of which the parameter, again, we will put in some text. So you need these quotes, double quotes or single quotes in Python, just like in JavaScript. It doesn't matter. Just make sure that you use the same ones for beginning and the end, because if you use different ones, well, that's another syntax error we are dealing with. Let's ask what's your name. Now, one thing, add a space after the question mark, because Python treats the input as a literal string, which means if you don't put this space here, you will be typing your name right after the question mark, which doesn't look the best. So maybe we can put like your answer, don't forget the space, and boom. Now, we can change this one to your name is, and again add a space, a plus. Now a plus sign with numbers, obviously you can count them together. With strings, you can connect them together. We'll open the console. What's your name? Your answer, my name is Michael. Because if I put in Stanley, you wouldn't really believe that that actually did something. Now, that's a proof. Your name is Michael. It works. A different thing we can do in the print command is instead of using the plus sign, which can cause real problems. Like you can see, let's create another variable. Age equals input. How old are you? We have a simple problem here. When we use the input function, the compiler doesn't know what kind of data type are we actually taking from the user. So we are always taking strings because strings can store everything, unlike other data types. However, age is, well, a number. So obviously, we have to change it into a number, and we do it using the int function. Int means integer, and what this will do, whatever the parameter is, it will change it into a number, which is extremely handy, of course. And if we now add print, you are 8 years old, we will have a single problem. This command would work if we remove this int. Like if I run it without it, I'm 15 years old. You are 15 years old. It seems good, right? Well, there's one problem that appears. What if I am hello years old? Well, obviously that is stupid. You cannot be hello years old. And obviously when we have a string here, that's a problem. We don't want it. We want a number. So we have to add the int function that will forcefully change it to a number, which means if we input not a number like hello, we'll have an error because, well, that's not a number. If we have the number as 15, but it's a string, we won't be able to use it in numerical operations because Python thinks it's not a number. It's a text that says 15. If we have it as an int, Python actually knows, yep, this is a number. However, the print command now won't work because the plus signs work either for only numbers or either for only strings, also other data types, but you cannot combine them with each other. So how do we fix it? Well, we simply don't add pluses and instead we add commas. This basically means here we are connecting it to a single string, whereas here it actually prints 3 things in a row. However, what the commas also do is that they add their own space, which means we no longer need to add these spaces ourselves. If we run the console now, my name is Stanley and I'm 18 years old. My name is Stanley and I am 18 years old. Exactly what we want. And why would we want it as a number? Why complicate our lives? Why change the age to a number when we can have it as a text? I mean, when printing, it doesn't matter, right? Well, there is a simple thing. What if I want to know my age in 5 years? Let's add print, and let's say it's age plus 5, because almost. Because that's what it is. If I run it now, look at this. If my age is 15, my age in 5 years is 20. That is correct. What if it's not an int, however? If we remove this function and keep it as a string, keep it as a piece of text, we are 15 years old. However, we have a problem here. We cannot count numbers with text. It simply doesn't work this way. So we need the int. We can remove the name. No one cares about the name. Let's say we want to make a program that asks the user for age and then checks whether they are allowed to drive. For that, you need to be at least 18 years old. How do we check if someone is 18 years old? Well, and here we come to conditional statements and blocks. In order to create a conditional statement, we use the keyword if. As you can see, it changes color. This is actually a statement. It isn't just a word. Because if I would do this is a terrible thing. Never do this. That's a syntax error. You cannot do this. You cannot call your variable if. You simply cannot do that because that's a reserved keyword. So we will check if age is greater or equal to 18. And we do it exactly as I said. We put the greater sign and the equal sign, 18. It's simple as that, that's the condition. For the sake of readability, you can add spaces. Now finally, we ended up with a colon. That colon basically means we're opening a block. Just like in JavaScript we had braces, here we have a colon. But how do we end the block? if we are starting with a colon, as you can see, I've automatically added an indentation. In JavaScript, this is optional. You can do it, you don't have to. For the sake of readability, everyone does it, but you don't have to do it. In Python, this is necessary. Everything that is indented, all of this is part of the block. Once I remove this indentation, this is already outside the block. So, in order to add comments that will only work inside of this if statement when age is greater or equal to 18, we need to add an indentation, and everything that is indented is now part of the block. Make sure all your indentation is the same or you will get another syntax error. So we'll print you can drive, because it's simple as that. You can drive when you're 18 years old. That's self-explanatory. However, we also want our program to say you cannot drive. Well, one way to do it, by the way, remove this indentation because we are now closing the block. This is the only statement or only function we have in our block. Now it's time for a new block, and we can go like if age is lower than 18, you can print you cannot drive. However, why do it like this? This is overcomplicated. Now we have a simple condition. So obviously it's very easy to create an opposite, but there must be an easier way. And for that we have else. It's simple as that. It doesn't take any extra condition or parameter or anything. It's simply else, colon, and you can do whatever you want. This part of the block will only execute if this one does not. So if the condition that we put in is false, if it's not true, we can try it right away. It asks us, how old are we? Well, I will say I'm 18. You can drive. That's nice. Let's try it again. This time, I'm only 1 year old and I cannot drive, which is very sad. But you can see that the program works. Now, what other data types are there? For example, this condition can be checked like this. Print, can you drive? And now we'll print age is greater or equal to 18. We are printing the result of this condition, which is a type Boolean. If we start the console now, let's say I'm 15 years old, can you drive? False. This false is a Boolean value, a Boolean number, which is either true or false. You can force it to be false by simply typing false. Don't forget a capital F. Small f is wrong. And the same goes for true. So a different thing you can do in order to really make sure what you're doing is correct is take this, the equal sign. The equal sign are two equal signs like this. This means equals to. This means assigns to. That's the main difference. It's a different sign. Let's add true. This is the same thing as there was before, but now we're really making sure it's true. But we can also make it blatantly wrong by making sure it equals to false. After we do this, it will always tell us the opposite. I'm 15, well, I can drive. That's weird, I shouldn't be able to. An easier way to do this thing is to simply put the word not in front of the statement. So right now, again, we'll put I'm 18. I cannot drive, that's weird. So that's what the not keyword does. It simply negates, it does the opposite. Another way to do this is, for example, I can only drive, in this case, when my age is exactly 18. This is how we check whether the age is exactly 18. We use the equal sign, which are two equal signs. Don't forget that. So if I'm 21, I can no longer drive. I cannot drive. But if I'm 18, I can drive. Don't forget to use F5 to open the console. That's how you run the program. What if I can drive only when I'm not 18? Well, instead of this equal sign, we'll put it not equal sign, which we can obviously do using the not keyword, but why do is when we can simplify our work using an exclamation point. Now if we check our age is exactly 18, I cannot drive. However, when I'm 25, I already can. So that is exactly what that does. So obviously there are many different types of conditions. I think those are the most important ones that you can use for numbers. But what about if we have a text? Now in that one we only have equals and not equals because text cannot be greater or lesser. Now let's say we want to do something more interesting. We want to print all numbers from 10 to 1 and then print start, like a countdown. Well, we can do this very simply. We can simply put print 10, print 9, print 8. But why will we do this? For this we use loops. Let's define a variable I. This one will store the value 10. This is the number we are beginning from. Now, while loop is a loop that loops while a condition is true. Just like with if, after the while keyword, we'll put in our condition. So while I is greater than 0, which means all numbers greater than 0 will be printed. But 0 will no longer be. We would have to put also an equal sign. Let's obviously open the block using the colon. Now don't forget the indentation, and let's print I. That will print the current I, which is 10. But if we leave it like this and call it a day there, we will have a terrible problem. Yeah, we'll just keep printing 10 forever. close it. So yeah, don't do that. We're back. This is something called an infinite loop. We don't want that. After we print I, we have to decrease the value of I so that eventually it will come to this point where I equals 0, which means this condition here is no longer met. 0 is not greater than 0. 0 is equal to 0. And that's when the loop ends. And we do it in two ways. The regular way is I equals I minus 1. This is the long way, because why would you do this? The easier way is simply I minus equals 1. This is a shorthand that is also available in many programming languages, which basically means you're assigning a value decreased by this value. It also works with strings, like you can glue an extra part using plus equal sign. Doing this, let's launch it. You can see we have all the numbers from 10 to 1. Beautiful. Well, I'll just add the start outside of the loop body. That's the loop block or the loop body, and boom. It's simple as that. It's simple as that. And if you're really crazy and you want to make it an actual stopwatch to count 10, you can import time. This is how we get extra code, so we don't have to program these functions ourselves. We can import any function that is installed in our computer. For example, time is one of the packages that is installed with Python, so we can import time, and after you decrease the I, you can time.sleep 1, which means it will sleep for 1 second. I will not really explain this, but if you really want to make a program that actually counts down 10 seconds, this is how you can do it. And obviously you can also do it for incrementing. Just don't forget to properly set everything so you don't have an infinite loop. But this is already a bit too much extra. So the last thing I want to teach you today is a different type of loop, which is the for loop, which works very similar to while, except you already defined the I right here. So you can skip all of this. You can skip this declaration, just for I in range. This is a specific function. The range generates a range of numbers. What have I written here is a very important thing. 10 is the start of the range. This is basically our 10 right here. 0 is the end of the range, but it's excluded. This is the 0 right here. And the minus 1 is the step. This is basically this part. So after we put it, everything we have to do here is just print I, and we will delete all of this so that doesn't run. And after we start it, we have the exact same output, but it's a bit more compact. You use the while keyword, especially when you don't know how many times you're gonna loop through the body. Whereas you use the for keyword when you know exactly how many times you wanna loop through it. In case you wanna make it even more compact, we can take this print command and put it directly after the colon. We can do this for single statements. For example, print here is a single statement function. Like if we had print I and also print I plus 1, those are two statements. There are two functions, you cannot do this. But in case we only have one, just like here, we can do something like this. And now we have it all compact in one line, and still the output is exactly the same. Now, very important thing, I was deleting these all the time so that they don't interfere with my code. But there is an easier way to do this, and those are comments. You can add a tag in front of any line or any part of the line to create a comment. For example, this is a print function. This part will get completely ignored. Everything that follows a tag sign will be ignored. So there's a way that we can ignore all of this code without deleting it, because maybe we might need it by simply putting tag signs. Now if we F5, you can see we'll only have one of the loops running. If we also put that one in a hash sign, only the start gets printed. Everything else got ignored. Now there is an easier way to group multiple lines of code like this, because right now we have been using the tag sign for every single line. However, we can also add 3 quotes in a row and another 3 quotes in a row. This is actually just a string. This is a long string. You can use this when your string has multiple lines and you want to print it exactly the way that you type it out. This can also be used as a multi-line comment. Well, with that being said, I guess that's it for today. You can experiment and create like multiple inputs that evaluate, for example, like you can put something like x equals input code, then if x equals hi, you can print hello. Elif, which means else if x equals hello, you can print hi. Else, if it's neither, print wrong code. And in order to loop this, we'll put a while statement true. This is an infinite loop. However, it doesn't really matter to us, because as soon as there is an input statement, the program is actually waiting, which means it will not freeze your computer. So right now we have created some sort of weird chatting application. We have wrong code, we can just close it, we can kill the program. So you can experiment, do some program. The more you code, the more you practice. And the more you practice, the more you know. Which means the key to learning any programming language is to simply use it. Create as many programs as you can in it. And the more you make, the more you learn. Next time we can take a look at arrays, as in lists, functions, maybe even classes. I don't know how long will that video be. But for now, I think that's enough. I think you have all the basics required to create your first Python program. And therefore, that would be everything from me. We cannot count text to a string. I'm also thinking about the video size. It's extremely small. That's weird. Okay, I really hope I'm not only recording my face right now, because that would be awful. That would be awful. Okay, well anyway, you can use this to have multiple strings, like if you have a very long string.
You just posted cringe.
Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, you can also check out my other tutorials right here. If you want to see how to create your own website using JavaScript and HTML, you can check right here. Also, don't forget to subscribe and check out my music, because why not? That will be everything from me. I'll see you next time. Goodbye!